She's a conservative and I'm liberal, and yet we've been friends for almost 40 years. Everyone says you shouldn't talk about politics, religion, or money, and we say that's exactly what friends should be talking about. Join us as we tackle the conversations you're having in your head, but are too scared to say out loud. Hello, Jolie.
Well, hello, Nicole.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm good. Isn't it funny? Because I feel like we're literally talking about everything that you're not supposed to talk about.
Yes,
Today
exactly.
is religion.
Yes. Prayer and meditation specifically.
Yeah.
And I thought what was interesting, it didn't occur to me until about an hour before we got on today, that this might air several weeks from now, but today is October 2nd, which is Yom Kippur. And in New York City, it's very quiet and very calm.
Is this the most holiest of days in the Jewish religion?
It's a holy day. It's a holy day. It's the Day of Atonement, where people go to service and they fast until sunset tonight, and then they break the fast. But New York, it's a big old holiday, whether you're Jewish or not. It's pretty quiet, and
So people take the day off.
I wish all days were like this. Yes, people take the day off. Yeah, I didn't have auditions today. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So here we are, and listener and viewer, the reason this even came up is we were recording a couple days ago, and we stopped the record. It was over, and I said to my friend Jolene, "So what are you doing tonight?" And you started telling me that, oh, don't you know that I go to church on Monday nights now? And what is the group called?
So it's called adoration. And because we're Catholic, it is you go to the chapel, and for an hour you are praying. We have the Blessed Sacrament there. Catholics believe that the wafer is, after it's been blessed, is truly the presence of Christ. And so it is exposed, is the term, meaning that it's not protected behind the tabernacle, like it's there on the altar in the chapel. And so it's like Jesus is actually there. And so you go for an hour. I mean, you can go for whatever you want. Jeff and I go for an hour, and I envision that Jesus is, in my warped brain, that Jesus is sitting on the altar with his legs crossed, and he's like, "Hey, glad you showed up tonight. What you got? What you got for me?" I mean, like that's literally in my head. It's like talking to your very best friend, and he's like, "So what you got? Like, tell me what's going on with you. What can I help you with?" I mean, and so we spend that hour in adoration.
And so you were saying how nice and quiet it was, and you thought about things, and I said to you, "Oh, that sounds like my meditation practice."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we thought, maybe we should talk about this. And then I was thinking, I bet you there's doctors that study the brain and what the effects of prayer and meditation are. And I found them.
You're so good about researching, so I want to hear this. I want to hear, because I think we started talking about, okay, how do you pray for an hour? Like, how is that? And as we talked about it, you said, well, it's like meditating. I mean, you've got to focus your brain, and you start to get distracted, and you go, whoa, wait, I gotta, go back. And so I think there are similarities between praying and meditating. I would say the difference is you're meditating for yourself.
Not necessarily. There's all kinds of meditations. There's all kinds of meditation practices. There's all kinds of ways to meditate, whether it's a loving kindness meditation. You might be meditating for connection with the world, nature. It's something bigger than yourself, which I think is a lot like prayer.
Yeah.
It could be for something going on personally with you, work stress, grief.
Are you talking to yourself?
You're not really talking. Should I start by telling you what I learned today about the...
Well, I kind of want to get a basis. Yes,
Okay.
I'd love to get a basis for what it is that you're doing, and then how that affects the brain.
Okay. I would never say that I am I am not a meditation teacher. I only have my own experience.
Yeah.
I started doing yoga 30-ish years ago. And my yoga practice, you're focusing on the breath, you're moving, and you sort of you can go into a state of quiet, but you're always aware of it's what's called a monkey brain. Everybody's brain is always thinking. And according to this neuroscientist / neurotheologist, he said only 5% of us don't have the similar brain. All the rest of us have the same brain. So I started doing yoga, and I just sort of assumed I had a meditation practice because I was doing yoga all the time. But if I really got serious about it, I wasn't. I was not sitting and meditating. And when the pandemic hit, I was introduced to, at the time, the app was called 10% Happier. It's now called Happier. But Dan Harris created it, and a lot of people know who he is at this point because he was a pretty famous ABC newscaster that infamously had a panic attack on air. And he realized, oh my gosh, I need to find something to help me. And he found meditation. And so I started actively meditating about 5 years ago. Like I said, there's all kinds of ways to meditate. You can walk while you're meditating. You can lay down while you're meditating. It's not necessarily sitting cross-legged, like with your fingers together in the way that we all sort of think that that's what you do. And it isn't about clearing your mind. It's about actually being aware, and being aware when you can focus on your breath and then when your mind starts to wander. So there isn't necessarily, like I would imagine, obviously in Catholicism, you're praying to Jesus. In Buddhism, you're looking at this universal spirit. As a Muslim, you're praying to Allah. When you're meditating, it's not even about thinking about you. It's just sort of breathing and trying to stay grounded and present and paying attention to where your thoughts are and where your thoughts go. And then trying to not get attached to those thoughts, as we all do when we all start to, how many times during the day are you like, wait a minute, where am I? What was I thinking? Even we do it when we drive. Mm-hmm. Wait, how did I get here? What was I thinking? And it's sort of having those moments, those of clarity, of quiet to, okay, here I am. I'm sitting on this chair. I can feel my sit bones on the chair. I'm looking at my friend. I'm here. I'm not, what's for dinner? Oh my God, did I say something wrong? Am I making any sense? Is this embarrassing? All the things that go in our brains, right?
Okay, that helps me. And it's funny because I can't remember if you told me about Dan Harris or if I knew about him, but I remember starting it during COVID too. But I felt like I knew it before COVID, so that's why I'm wondering if it was something that you and I talked about. Or
I think it could have been something we talked about because I did start it right before COVID, but then during COVID, what I thought was really cool was that because he lived in New York, this is what I think I told you. During COVID, he decided to do live. They were like on YouTube at 3:00 Eastern every day. And that's when it was like, even though he was in his apartment, it was such a, like, for people that were stuck in New York City, it was this, for me, a real sense of comfort, which I imagine prayer is like, because here was this person and he was like, I'm struggling too. Let's breathe together. Let's talk about this. And let's, basically, I see you. You're not alone, which I am guessing is one of the reasons people find peace and calm in a congregation, whatever their faith is.
Yeah. That's a great point. So I remember doing some of his meditations and got the app and all that. But then I think I also had the opportunity to there were Christian meditations that you could do. Yeah. And so it was the same concept, but it was maybe just saying, Jesus, I trust you. I mean, so doing a trusting affirmation maybe, or, something like that. So yeah, I remember doing that.
Before we get into the brain health and what I discovered today or in the last couple of days, I know that you weren't always religious and that you did convert to Catholicism when you met Jeff. What has faith given you, and has it gotten stronger the older you've gotten?
I would say that I grew up in the church because we were Methodist and we would go to church on Sundays, and I would
you go every Sunday?
Almost every Sunday. Okay. I mean, if we were home, we would go to church. I mean, that was just the routine.
And did your community do that too?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you would go as a family, and all of our friends went to our church. I mean, that was probably, it was almost a social thing. But I really didn't take it. I mean, I went through the things that you were supposed to do. I would go to Sunday school. I went to MYF, which was the Methodist version of like confirmation when you're 13, and did all the things. But it really wasn't until Jeff and I got engaged, and his mother, who was devout Catholic, said, "You're going to raise your kids Catholic, aren't you? Because that's the thing when you get married, when one person is Catholic and the other is not, the Catholics want you to raise your children in the church. So if you decide that so we got married in the Methodist church, yet we had a priest bless our ceremony. He was part of, we had the Methodist minister and the Catholic priest. And so that it was recognized by the Catholic Church. But at that point, I did not agree I didn't want to be Catholic. Didn't think that I wanted to be Catholic. But we had agreed that we would raise our children Catholic. That was the agreement when you have your marriage blessed in the Catholic Church. So then it was a conversation, and it was really between Jeff's mom and I. And she said, "Okay, so you're going to go through RCIA," was the name of the program, to become Catholic. And it's a 9-month program that you learn everything that there is to learn about the Catholic Church, and then you get confirmed the Saturday night before Easter. And I think we've talked about this on the show before. I went in going, I'm not going to be Catholic. I don't know what y'all do with the Mary thing. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know why you have all these statues, and I mean, all the things. And so then when I started going to the classes, and I, in my cocky self went into these classes and go, yeah, but what are you guys doing with Mary? Like, why is that Mary thing going on? And they explained it, and I was like, oh, well, actually, I believe that. And then, then they were talking about statues, and they're like, and they would explain it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense to me. And pretty soon, I became Catholic.
Is that different than the pre-Cana classes? Is that a...
Yeah, so the pre-Cana classes are the classes that you take before you get married. And,
did you do that before you got married?
Yeah.
Even though you weren't Catholic yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did it through the... because that was also the church that we were going to before we got married, was the Catholic Church, and so it made sense for us to go through our pre-Canaan classes there. So I would say, though, I became a good Catholic because as an adult I learned about Catholicism, and had the roles been reversed, and Jeff decided to be Methodist and went through classes as an adult and learned all the things, then, I mean, maybe we'd be Methodist, because I just think as an adult, you learn things and you're more receptive to learning, and you know what questions to ask, whereas you don't, when you're growing up in a church, you kind of do the things because you were told to do them, and you don't really, I don't know how much of that learning you really remember and embrace.
You also allowed yourself to be curious. Yes, you went into those rooms a little cocky, like you knew who you were and what you wanted, and no one's going to tell Jolene what to do. And yep. I get that, because I'm same, and and then you're like, oh, which, of course makes me think about our political system and all the assumptions we make about each other until you ask a question like we are doing today and every day on the podcast, and which I think is a really interesting way to cross this is that there is this man named Dr. Andrew Newberg, and he's got a TED Talk that I'll put in the show notes. He has a really great Mel Robbins interview that I'll put in the show notes. He is a neuroscientist. He's a pioneering doctor in neurotheology, is what he calls it. And when he was a little boy, he would get really distressed as to why is everybody in different religions? Why is everyone in a different political party? Like, just, I don't get it. And why can't we all just get along? And it doesn't make sense. And I don't get it. So he, grew up and went to medical school and kept asking these questions. He got really curious about when people are having some sort of spiritual practice, what's going on in their brains. Part of his specialty, if you will, he works in nuclear medicine, where he injects tracers into the body, into the brain, and to be able to see what's going on with Alzheimer's patients and with Parkinson's patients is where he started. And he would put people in MRI scans, and then he was able, with these tracers, he's able to also do research while he was describing how one person was speaking in tongues and moving and seeing how their brains are activated. He was saying how prayer and meditation do the same things to your brain. So when he was doing these scans, there's a part of your brain called the parietal lobe. It's back here. It processes sensory information, touch, temperature, and it makes you aware of your spatial existence in the world. Like, I'm hitting clothes. If I fall too hard, I'm going to fall over. So it's also the sense of self, where you are in the world. The findings were that whether you were in a state of prayer or if you were in a state of meditation, it's not like he can see, oh, this person's thinking this. He's just looking at the different, how the brain is changing. He would do, thousands of scans, and then he also would then interview these patients about what was their experience, what were they feeling, what were they thinking. And no matter across the board, they felt love, energy, God, life force. And he says that there are 5 core elements that he keeps coming over and over again, whether it's in prayer or meditation. There's a feeling of connection, which this feeling of oneness, this feeling of humanity, this feeling of God, which he saw in the parietal lobe. It started to quiet down, and the sense of self was no longer forefront. It was more like there's something bigger. The second is a feeling of intensity, which he saw in the limbic system, which is where you feel all of your emotions, your fear, your anger, your pleasure. Like when people would have a spiritual awakening, if you will, it was the most beautiful vision they had. The biggest sense of peace. It was very large feelings, and it would light up in the limbic system. He could see it light up. Then the third is a sense of clarity, where people having a huge experience would say, like, I understand the world in a different way. I feel differently, which he saw in the thalamus, which is in the middle of your brain, is normally, as he called it, a brain at rest, is pretty even. And when in a state of meditation or prayer, one side lights up bright. And he's like, it was always this sense of clarity, I will never be the same again now that I have known this. And then the fourth was a feeling of surrender or letting go. So the frontal lobe, which is right behind your forehead, is a place of concentration where when you go into prayer or you go into meditation, you are like, okay, I'm thinking hard, right? And then when you go into that state of feeling something bigger than, your frontal lobe shuts down and quiets down. And they see it on the scans. The fifth core element is transformation, where there is a convergence or a near-death experience where there's like a before and an after. Like, I can never go back now that I have found this in my life, or that whatever it might be. And that whether it's a beautiful religious service, a walk in the forest, a beautiful sunset, that we all have these feelings of connectedness, intensity, clarity, surrender, and transformation. And it's all, you can see it in the brain when it's happening, which I thought was fascinating. And I was thinking about that. And he said in all of his research that 95% of the people had a positive experience with prayer and with meditation. Yeah. And because of the mind-body connection, because he's an integrative doctor, that he looks at the whole person, which he's explained as biological, psychology, sociology, which is social life and social connection, and spiritual is the four. And so that in his research, when people have a spiritual practice, whether it's a religious practice or a meditation practice or, a feeling of nature, that their blood flow is better, their blood vessels work better, they have lower stress, lower anxiety, lower depression, which then, because of all the connectiveness, it can affect your health. You have less heart disease, less chronic diseases like cancer. I mean, it was really fascinating to me. And one thing that I loved that he said was, he said, each person has a different lock and a different key. And so what makes me feel good and grounded and connected is different than what makes you feel good and grounded and connected. And that the question, because Mel Robbins asked him, so what do you do? And he's like, well, I get curious. That's what I do. I find joy in talking to all these people, and they're all different. And I just keep asking the questions, and that's my spirituality. And then he brings up, like, in social media, we're all in these little cocoons. And I think it's important to ask the questions and to talk to people, of which I was like, this is wild. That here is this doctor talking about neurotheology, and yet there's something about what we're doing here that we've got to talk about, asking questions and getting curious, and not, going into that Catholic class and saying, well, I know better, and then going, oh, maybe I don't, and I actually want this in my life. I found it hopeful. I found it exciting. He talked about, like, when you have a conversation with a best friend or a romantic partner, there's that feeling of oneness, that feeling of connection, and that he can see your brain lighting up in a different way. And I'm sure this is going to sound corny, but I remember being in 7th grade, and I was in the junior high musical, and I remember finishing the show, and we were taking our curtain calls, and I just had I was overwhelmed by this feeling, and I'm going to get emotional.
Oh my gosh.
Of, like, something's bigger, and I found my place. Like, it was like, oh, I'm home. This is it for me. Because theater, too, is like it's a ritual, and it's a connection between people. You are you are vibing off that audience, and that audience is vibing off of you, which, theater is such a place of healing and of magic. And I imagine that that's what church can be like, and what mosque can be like, and what temple can be like. There's this energy between the space, the people in it, and you feel it. And there's this deep connection that you can't really explain, but it can be such a healing thing, I think.
Knowing that, and knowing that there is that there's healing, and there's the good feelings. I mean, both from a psychological but physiological results from this. Why isn't this something that more people experience? You just identified things, a super simple that costs nothing, and that you can do anywhere, and you don't have to have an education for, that would bring so much people joy and relaxation and all the things.
I mean, Jolene, he even said, literally, find out what works for you, what makes you comfortable. It doesn't, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be religion if that's not your thing, or if it is your thing, that's cool too. And that sometimes he was explaining, our brains are filled with neuro pathways, and they can be stuck in trauma, or they can move. If someone had a deep religious childhood and it wasn't a good one, maybe that's not for you then. But you can rewire your brain by meditating, exercising, and he said, it doesn't have to be this big thing. He said, every day you could stop and breathe for 30 seconds. And it's going to help. It's going to help rewire your brain.
So, of all the things that we talk about, right, in from the political standpoint, and social media, and, all of the things, why is this not something that more people are identifying as something that can heal? Right? It not only is healing for someone who, obviously we talk about the mentally ill, and with guns and shooting and schools and politicians. And believe me, I'm not saying, well, we need to pray about it. Isn't that the thing that non-believers say, I'm so sick of hearing, you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Right.
But literally, that's what we are saying. You need to think and pray.
Oh, you mean you and I? You and I are literally saying that.
I think, yeah, right.
I have a couple thoughts. One was, I was thinking back when you were talking about growing up, and that was part of your social structure. Because that was part of my parents' social structure. My mom was a Methodist, my dad was Jewish, and that was part of the world, that you went to church or temple or whatever, and you did all the activities, and a lot of people didn't even really believe necessarily, but it was their place to connect. It seems that social structure isn't as prevalent as it was certainly in the 50s or 60s. I was thinking about how could we ever get, it would never happen, but thinking about Congress and thinking about all of them, that you did a thing like Dan Harris did at 3:00 at Eastern, and at 3:00 you took 5 minutes, and I'd be in the chamber, and you would just sit and be quiet and breathe and not yell and they couldn't do it, but what that could possibly do. And what I loved about this guy, Dr. Andrew Newberg, was that the scans show it, believe whatever you believe, whatever works for you. And we're all just using different language what works for us, right?
Yeah, right.
You believe in Christ and all of that, and I might believe I don't even really know what I believe, honestly, but I do feel a connection. I feel a vibration. I love love.
Okay, do you believe, and maybe you don't want to answer this, do you believe in God?
I believe there's something. I feel something. I don't know if I would call it God. That doesn't mean I discount anyone that believes in God.
Yeah, right. But you're open that it could be God.
Sure. I mean, I find it interesting, like, in terms of just, like, history and ritual, that religion has been since the beginning of time in all different cultures, in all different ways, and everybody believes in this spiritual being, and they call it different things, but there is this innate sense of wanting something. Human beings want something, and there's a ritual, and the ritual I love. I love that you all have your own things. I love that you all have your own statues and your own costumes and your, like, a theater. I'm down. I mean it. I think it's really cool. And I understand why people want to believe in something, do believe in something.
So, okay, so haven't we, I mean, I feel, and I don't know how to overstate this too much. Like, I just feel like you have and not just you, but I think that we, this doctor and others who, really get into this, have researched this, that have really identified something that truly changes us. Yet I don't think that we're giving it enough credit, and I don't think that we're having a conversation about it. So for me, I'm saying literally praying. And again, to your point, and whether that's to Jesus or Buddha, whatever religion that looks like, that literally changes your physiological body, not just your mind, and not just your well-being and all that. So I can't believe that this is not something that is truly being pushed.
I mean, I think it's a brand new concept, Jolene. I think, he's been studying this for 30 years or been curious about it, and neo-theology is a pretty new concept. Maybe there's some, like, medical pushback. I do not know. I mean, he seems like he's at the forefront of his field.
But I wouldn't say it's a new theory for people who identify as Christian or who identify having a faith. That's something that people who believe in praying, and again, if that's praying or meditating, this is something that they've known forever, right? That they feel better. And because for all the reasons that they've connected to something, and they feel like this is the message that God is giving them.
I think Dr. Newberg is putting a name to it in a way that maybe Christians and Jews and Muslims and Buddhists, whomever, and just meditators would be like, oh, I just feel better. I feel calmer. I feel a sense of peace. I feel a sense of community. Whenever I go talk to my rabbi or my imam or my priest, I just, and he's showing on brain scans, oh, well, your frontal lobe is quieted down, or your thalamus is brightening up, and so you feel really clear, or I mean, it's fascinating. Like I said, I'll put it in the show notes. The TED Talk especially, you get to see the brain scans and see what he's talking about. And the Mel Robbins podcast is just him talking about a lot of things, but I've geeked out on the scans because I was like, this is incredible. And I've always been a huge believer in the mind-body connection and our health, and how important it is to connect with people. I think it was probably very different for New Yorkers than a lot of the country, but during COVID, it really screwed us up, this disconnection. We were so... And it screwed up our kids. Not just in New York, but absolutely. I saw it with all, nieces, all the kids that were just like stuck behind a screen and couldn't go play, and Like that social
Totally.
connection is crucial.
I feel like we've put such an emphasis, and again, I love a good conspiracy theory. So I'm wondering if we've put such an emphasis on medication and eating. I mean, eating right. That's just now coming into, okay, let's get rid of the seed oils because that has jacked up our systems and blah, blah, blah. And, getting rid of processed foods. And I mean, all the things that we've talked about we've talked about exercising, we've talked about eating right, but we've put so much little emphasis on prayer and meditation that it's almost like, is this something that big pharma or big food has known for a long time, but they don't want you to know there's a secret. There's a little secret. All you got to do is pray, and you're going to be a better person.
Well, I think Dr. Newberg was saying how Western medicine focuses on the biologic, on the biology. That's what they focus on, and they focus on the medicine, and that's what they do. And then integrative medicine, which we've talked about in I think the big food and the pharma episode, is looking at the whole person. I mean, I guess that's the positive to the internet and everything we have access to, is that people are starting to say, oh, wait a minute, there is more than taking this drug. And I think also because we're in this time of deep division and disconnection and loneliness, that we are talking about these things for the first time. Like maybe that's also why these are becoming more popular, for lack of a better word. And pharma can't make money off of this. Each person has a different lock and a different key. And I loved that. I loved that idea, because it was like, we are all totally, every single person's different. What might work for me is not going to work for you. Right? And it sort of gives yourself grace in the best way. Mel Robbins asked, that her readers are always asking, how do I get unstuck? And he was talking about, the brain can literally get stuck. And that we as humans, yes, we have ritual, but when you can break out patterns or learn something new or be curious about something, and of course, when you're stuck, you feel sad and it's hard to have energy. But he was suggesting, try your best to break out of that pattern, and it will unlock those pathways.
Yeah.
I think what was so cool about it too is that in some ways, we have even more possibility than we thought.
Do you think it's because, and you go back 40 years ago, we allowed ourselves time to be silent. We don't now. If we've got
you mean pre-cell
moment,
phones and computers?
We're grabbing our phones.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at our phones or we're looking at our computer. And if you get a minute, you're listening to something, or think you have to listen to a podcast if you're traveling, or I would love to know how many people, and listener, if I would love to hear your feedback on this. If you're in the car driving, how many times have you turned the radio off and just been in silence? Or if going for a walk, not putting your headphones in, or going, waking up in the middle of the night, do you immediately reach for your phone to, try to get your mind off of whatever you're ruminating on? And at those times, if we stopped grabbing for something and listening to something to fill those voids, if we would just allow the silence and to sit in silence and allow your brain to meditate, allow that connection with God and pray instead, I mean, are we flipping a switch there?
I mean, I think that's such a great point, Jolene. It's such a great point. I read an article. It was actually on Brooke's Substack. She was interviewing this woman and talking about Generation X, which has really nothing to do with this in a way, except to say that we are the generation that has known both. We are analog and digital. The generations after us only know digital. And so we know those moments of quiet or discomfort or challenge or terror, whatever, or boredom, I have such a vision of being in New York City. I was sitting at a cafe on Bleecker Street, and it was in the mid-90s, and I saw my first cell phone. And I looked at the person walking down the street, and I was like, well, they're just calling someone because they're lonely. Just deal with it. That's literally what I thought, not knowing what was going to happen 30 years later. Like, there is no silence, or there's so little silence, you right? One thing I will say, they talk about sleep health, that you should not have your phone in your room, my dear.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I remember, because in the last podcast, you were like, I gave the assignment of taking a walk without your phone, or with the next time you want to grab your phone, go take a walk. And you're like, what if it's 3 a.m.? And it didn't occur to me until I was like, wait a minute, you got to have that phone out of your room. It's such a good point, Jolene. It's such a good point. And we have generations of kids after us that only know the phone.
Maybe it's 15 minutes 3 times a day sitting in silence, or sitting outside.
That's a big ask for people. We could try once a day.
I know, but
But yeah, isn't it crazy?
I mean, but 15 minutes 3 times a day. I mean, as things get crazy, and and
you're on your Instagram, and you're right. And you're screaming. Yeah. You're looking at the video that's making you crazy, and you hate hate the conservatives, and you hate the Republicans, and you hate the liberals, and you hate the Democrats, all the same. And put your phone down, walk away, take a deep breath. I did a meditation practice this morning in my bed, and it was a quick one. It was 5 minutes, and it was a kindness meditation. Part of the meditation was the person leading it saying, you're being kind right now to yourself, breathing and being quiet and being here. And I thought, oh, that's so nice. And then I got up and went on with my day. And then it's finally fall. Like today, it's fall. It's been hot as like a swampy swamp. I was like, and I don't do well with the hot swamp. Finally, a nice, lovely fall day. And because I live on the 32nd floor, I have a window that you can only open 3 inches. That's just how it is. They don't want you falling out, all the things. So I have the 3 inches open, and I'm like, oh, it's beautiful. And then I hear this, me. And I live down by the New York Stock Exchange, which for those of you who don't live in New York, the New York Stock Exchange area, the financial district, is all residential now. All of us that live here are residents. We don't work down here. The stock exchange is sort of open, but it's not open for, all the traders are there in their offices in Midtown and Jersey and all the things. Well, everybody wants to protest in front of the stock exchange. We also have a Trump building around the corner. And so we always, do you know, Jolene, that when they do strikes I think they have them in all the cities. They certainly have it in New York. They have these huge inflatable rats. They're a huge inflatable rat that they put in front of a skyscraper. And then the people that are protesting have bullhorns, but the rat is like, you're a rat. And it's a huge inflatable rat. You don't know what I'm talking about. Like a balloon? Like a Macy's Day Parade? Like a balloon. If I can find a video, I will put in the show notes to show you all what I'm talking about. Oh, so this happens all the time, and this happens in my neighborhood all the time. So finally, it's a beautiful day. I've got 3 inches of fresh air. And I'm like, what? And I run to the window, and this really heavy frame falls and cuts my toe, splits my toe. And I don't hear anything anymore, and I just hold on to my foot. And I'm like, everything is stopped because I'm in so much pain. And I go, and it's bleeding and split open, and da-da-da. And I sit there, and I look at my foot, and I put stuff on it. I'm holding my foot. I'm like, I need to be kind to you, foot. What happened to my meditation? I am just, the meditation is gone, but now I'm back. I'm going to be like, it was just like, okay, here we are. Cut the noise out. That doesn't, like, here we are. And then right before we recorded today, I did a 15-minute kindness meditation. And they say, and as I was doing the meditation, he was suggesting, like, think of someone that makes you feel good. Bring them to mind. And I've thought of you, Jolene. And, like, see them smiling at you.
Yay.
Right? And he said, this person wants to be happy just like you. And if you're going to have a tough conversation, always remember that the person sitting in front of you wants to be happy just like you. And I loved that.
Wow.
Because I was like, this is what we forget. We forget about this every day, all day long, screaming at social media, screaming at the news, that we've decided that you don't believe what I believe. You can't possibly be like me. And I have to remember over and over again, this person wants to be happy just like me. And that immediately changes the tone and your thought process.
Right.
Right? Because you're like, oh.
Totally.
Huh. Just like you start to get curious in a way, just like you did when you walked in that Catholic class and went, huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense to me. And then all of a sudden, like, the charge comes off. It's not so hot. It's not so scary.
Yeah.
It's not so, other. On that note, my good for the soul. I have two, and one I kind of stole from you. I got to watch the 60 Minutes segment with Spencer Cox. I want to put it in the show notes because he's now James Tallarico's a Democrat. Spencer Cox right now is my favorite Republican. He is on the 60 Minutes episode, and he calls for civility and unity with the New Mexican governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham. And she's a Democrat. And I loved their partnership. I loved how their approach to government was. It's a really great segment, you guys, and I'll put it in the show notes so that you can check it out. Because it really, to me, was like, this, I hope, could be our future. That people respect each other, like really want to dig in and understand and be compassionate. And then the other one is the guy that I sent to you. I'll also put him in the show notes. It's an Instagram, Oh That's Rich, OHH That's Rich. And I don't really understand who he is, but his description is just a dude helping to make this world a better place for everyone. And he talks to the phone, and he had those really good ideas about the amendments. And I was like, who is this guy? I was like, this makes sense.
Well, okay, so my good for the soul, keeping in line with our conversation, is Jesus Calling. And this is, it is, I keep it here on my desk because it has daily readings. And so it's just a book that that is really timeless. And every day I start, before I even turn my computer on, I sit down and I read, and that helps me kind of, keep things in perspective as the day goes. Sarah Young is the author, but she has Jesus Calling for young men. She has Jesus Calling for recent graduates. I mean, she has different versions. It's almost like having a conversation with Jesus, and so it's a great way to start the day, or in the middle of the day.
Do you have a would you rather?
Yes. Would you rather have a conversation with God or a conversation with the devil?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
My first instinct was to say the devil.
I know, right? I mean,
because I'm curious. Here's the thing.
Right. Like
this might
right.
cancel me with the believers that listen to our podcast. I don't know if I believe in God, and I don't believe in the devil. So there's that.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
And when I think of the devil, I think of South Park. Like, it immediately, like, that's my brain. Like, I just don't believe in that. So, but I think that would be very curious to believe, to talk to him. But I also think it would be really scary.
Yeah.
Because if the devil is real, it's just like all the darkest, ugliest, scariest parts of humanity is that. So I think I'm rethinking this because there was a book growing up, a little kid's book called T.A. for Tots that I loved so much, and maybe it was a California book, but I actually own one now. I'll put that in the show notes. And it taught kids about feelings, and the good feelings were these little orange, furry, round things called the warm fuzzies. And the bad feelings were these blue, spiky things called the cold pricklies. And so I'm thinking to myself that God is like a warm fuzzy. Like, if he really exists, like, I want to hang out with the warm fuzzy and talk to him. Or her.
Yeah.
Whatever. Non-gendered thing. So, yeah, I'm going to go there because, you know what? The devil scares me. Even though I don't believe him.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Would you rather visit the International Space Station for a week or spend a week in a hotel at the bottom of the ocean?
The ocean actually scares me because
More than
I
space?
think there's so much unexplored. We've explored space more than we have the
Isn't that
depths of
true?
the ocean.
It's wild. I know.
Yeah. I think you better put me up in space.
Can you imagine? You're like,
Oh
yeah.
gosh, I mean that makes me scared. Do I get to take my phone?
Hell
Because
no.
now, if I am at the bottom of the ocean without my phone, now I'm having a huge anxiety attack.
No phones. No phones on this adventure.
I would have to spend the entire time in prayer because I would be just absolutely having an anxiety.
Uptown in space or downtown in the ocean?
Oh, I mean, actually, no, gosh, down in the ocean. Yeah, ew.
So you're going
But
uptown.
I'm going into space, so I don't have to worry about it.
Maybe you'll be closer to God up there.
That would be awesome. Right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. Where are the other planets that you created? I mean, how much more did you create that we can't even fathom?
I love it. Well, thank you for this celestial conversation, my dear.
This was good. Oh, I hope that we can dive into. I hope this is a conversation that that we've just hit on the very beginning of it, and this is going to be part of our that we're diving into this, and more research will be done on it because I think it's man, it sounds like it's super important.
And I also think it's really important that we've not been afraid to talk about this stuff. Because religion is a hot button, and people have a lot of preconceived notions about it, and anxieties about it, and beliefs about it. And I love that you were open enough to have this conversation with me, to share your experience, and to be open to my experience that isn't yours, and but you were curious about it, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I really do. So thank you.
Oh, no, I completely agree. Thank you.
Yeah. All right,
thank
girl.
You, friend.
Thank you.
And thank you, listener. Thank you for being a part of our questions and answers. And please give us a thumbs up, and please subscribe where you can, and share it with a friend. Maybe there's somebody who needs to hear this, somebody that might be struggling as well and needs to hear that maybe some prayer or meditation is something that should not be overlooked.
Yes. Yeah. Get curious, y'all. We've Got to Talk is produced across the world by the wildly talented, creative, and hilarious team at Bambi Media. Our theme song is Jump Jive Swing by Space Train Unlimited. Thank you so much for listening, and join us every week for another episode of We've Got to Talk.